Hello and welcome back to Character Creation Series. Today I'm gonna be doing UVs and textures. If you want this file, I updated my older gumroad file in which now has this body and the higher poly body. So if you are not using your own, you can download them on my gumroad. Okay, so first I'm gonna duplicate the object, hide the first one, and now we can name, if we want, this body, let's say UV. Now what we're gonna do is go into edit mode and start working on it by holding the Alt and Shift and click in between this edge. I will get the loop selected, and this is where our first seam's going to be. To apply the seams, you press Ctrl E, and there's mark seam button in this, so just press mark seam. Now do the same with the neck, find the loop close to the bottom of the jaw and apply the seam as well. Now going from the middle, I'm gonna go up the head by pressing first button and holding Ctrl and just clicking. The selection's gonna follow, and I stop at the first vertex where I think the hair gonna go, so the hair is gonna be covering the head. And I'm gonna mark the seam as well in this place. Now I'm gonna do one in here, and I have this going where I don't really want them to be, because it's very visible. Maybe I would hide it a bit further, one more. I can try actually selecting one further one, but no, it doesn't go into the body. So what you can do is press C, and while holding the middle click of your mouse, drag the ones you don't want. Be careful not to draw on the ones you need. And I'm gonna mark a second seam. I'm gonna do same from the neck. Actually, I think this one is easier to just press here, and with the Ctrl click, reach another seam, mark seam in this place, and we can go at the corner, drag this to the left side, and go into UV editor. I'm gonna select everything with the A and unwrap. Probably not gonna have a texture blocking the view, so I'm gonna turn it off. And this is how my UVs are looking. If you want to check the stretching, you can press on this arrow and drag it out, or press N as a shortcut while hovering this view. You're gonna get a menu. I go into view, overlays, and stretching. Now I will see the colors. The dark blue is good, the light blue is bad. It can go to green, to yellow, to red, which are the worst. Okay, so this is a good start, but it's definitely not the end. Next thing, I'm gonna try to get a circle around the ear, close to the ear end, and it's fine if it doesn't have a perfect loop going around. I'm gonna mark the seam in here, and now we are only left with the hand. So what I usually like to do is go in between the fingers and select the inner part of the finger. And just see if I don't have any problems. It seems to have to be as hidden as possible. Press another one inside, because this one starts not from too much inside, it starts in the middle, which is fine too. That's where we get this loop falling around, so I'm just gonna follow that. I'm gonna mark seam, because I can always clear it. So okay, fingers are looking nice. If your fingers are not looking that nice, just click by holding the control and the selection will follow. So I'm just holding my control, click and pressing. You can see pick shortest path, and you can set up a few things, but usually the default one works fine for me. So just by holding control and dragging, you can get your hand selection like that slowly. Now I want to clean this. I'm gonna press C and hold the left mouse click. And for ending the C selection, I just press right click. And now I'm gonna clear these seams because I don't need them. I need the one going around the finger. The thumb, I will clear this once. Attach the seam together and have one going around. Now I'm gonna select the wrist and have one around the wrist as well. What I do that connect the ends to the hand. The hidden one is fine too. Now press A to select everything, U, and unwrap. I still have this part, which is blue. If you want to know where is it, you can have these arrows at the top, then press Alt A to deselect and press L to select this part. And we can see what we didn't put the seam on the hand itself. So what I do, I try to find the one which will be hidden, and from the top I press Ctrl and just see if the line is straight. The line is straight, so I'm gonna mark the seam. And I have the seam selected. Now press A to select the model, U to unwrap. And we don't see any more light part. This one's between fingers, we can't really do too much about them. But everything else looks pretty nice. Okay, the next thing what I'm going to do is save, of course, the file and apply the mirror. Go into edit mode again and unwrap as a new. Now we're gonna have a different parts. So the wrapping in Blender is not great, but it's fine for beginners. What I'm gonna do is deselect the arrows because I cannot move UVs perfectly. Hovering with the mouse and pressing L select. I press G and drag, but I have the magnet tool on, so I can drag them freely. I press G and X to drag it on the alignment. And what I'm just trying to do is get some empty spaces in between everything, because if they will have no space, in between I might draw on both of the things together, and it might create a texture which I won't be able to fix because the seams are too close. So by doing this quickly, I just select few things which are very close, and I see I cannot move them. I select them, and by holding Alt and pressing S, I can scale with Alt S. You can do it another way, which is go into this part and select an individual origins, and just by pressing S, I scale them individually. I scale only a little bit, deselect, and now you can see I can rotate this one a bit and have more place for others. I see my hands are still pretty close. I'll make everything have a little bit more space in between. It's okay. When I'm gonna save the file again, and I'm going to create a new material. Can create it on the object mode, new, and I'm gonna call it skin texture. It can be skin material more. Now I want to set up my view again, so I'm gonna take this corner and drag down, select this part and go into shadow editor. I'm gonna rescale this one from the middle, press N to close this menu, and now we have our material. I'm gonna save again just in case, and I'm going to material preview, and you can set up the light as you want. You're probably not gonna have as many as I do, but you probably will have some studio light, so I'm using that. There's probably set to 1. I like the studio light the most. Okay, so now we're gonna have to be creating the textures. I press Shift A. Oh, the first thing is you have to go to reference and have a node wrangler activated, or some of the things I'm gonna be using will not work for you. I press Shift A, and in the texture I add the image texture. What I do, I press Shift D to duplicate it 3 times and select one to the base color. When I'm gonna create a new one, which gonna be skin / color, and I'm gonna change it to 2048, and I'm just gonna press it OK. Now I'm gonna go into where my UV editor was and change it to image editor and turn on my skin color. Now what I'm gonna do is save the file again because it can crash very easily. You can go into the object mode if your PC is slower and go into texture mode. I'm gonna resize my view, press N, and on the tools I'm gonna have brush settings. First I'm gonna select the fill one, and I'm gonna add a new color palette as well. And I'm going to try and find the skill color I want. So it's a bit red, bit yellow, a peach-like. Skin-like, peach-like, cream-like color. I recommend you saving again, just in case, and pressing on a model to fill it. Your strand has to be on 1, so it's gonna get filled fully. If you drag very far, you will get options, and you can change the bleeding mode to have a little bit more, maybe 5 pixels. Because in the image I see that it's very close, so I might get in trouble. I'm gonna press it again and it's gonna become a bit bigger. That's why having a distance between the seams is important. Next one, I'm gonna go into draw mode, and by hovering the model with the mouse, I'm gonna press S, and this way I sample the color. I'm gonna add it to my palette so I got the base color of my model. Another thing I'm gonna do is choose the red, pretty potent red color. I'm gonna show you how to create a texture. So I'm gonna create a new one, go at the bottom up here, and if you have to have this on the brush and select the texture. Then I'm gonna select clouds, go at the bottom, expand the colors, use the color ramp. And when I'm gonna draw, okay, don't forget to save just in case. You're probably gonna be looking like this, which is not okay. What you need to do is turn on the random at the mapping of the texture and random at the rotation. So now when I draw, it's gonna go and cover it. Another thing, I changed the black color to white at this place. And now I can play with the strength a bit. I can even play with alpha at this one. By selecting it to not draw it as sharp, but it's usually fine not changing this one. Okay, probably. Yes. Now, what I like to do is make the scale of the texture a bit smaller and make the contrast less. Maybe 0.5 works amazing to me. I can add this part a bit closer so I get more separation in the texture. Okay, another thing, I see that I'm drawing but there's no mirror. If you go down at the bottom, you can find the symmetry and turn on it. Or if you have a big view, there's this icon, which is for symmetry as well. I'm going to make my strength very small, especially if I'm using the mouse. I'm gonna make it extremely small. But if I'm using the pen, I can have a bit more than that. Now, the head itself is separated in 3 parts. Let me delete the old notations. I'm gonna add the new ones. We're gonna be needing 3. One is blue, yellow, and red. Usually females doesn't have too much of the blues on their faces, but the blues goes at the jaw, the yellows goes at the forehead, and the red goes in between. And by holding this rule in our minds, I'm gonna be drawing our texture of the skin. So I'm slightly brushing across the cheeks and the ears. Even with the softer movers, I draw around the nose, the eyes. I can have some on the lips, but I don't really like it too much. If you want, you can draw it on the body as well. I just very slightly brush around it. Every single part. It doesn't have to be every single part, but it's good to have the color variation. The hands usually have a bit more red, especially the fingers. The inner part of the hand. If you're having too much of the redness, don't forget to save the color in here. You can select your base color and draw over it, and it's going to become a bit softer. Now our color is pretty yellowish, so I don't know if I will need a bit of the yellow tones, but just in case, I'm gonna select the yellow color and draw on the forehead very slightly. Save the color to the pattern. You can have some yellow at the chest because it's a bit fattier place, some of the shoulders, running to the hand, but I wouldn't add too much of it. You can select back your skin color and just draw over to blend the colors a bit together. And if it would be a guy, you would go to the blue color and draw some on the jaw and merge them with the base color too. But I'm gonna control back to not have that, or just select my base color and draw heavily over it. I see I have a little too yellow of the forehead, so I'm gonna cover it with more base color. I hover my image and hold Alt and press S, and I can save my image. I'm gonna save it. Okay, so we have our first color. I'm gonna save it, the whole project, go back to object mode. And now I will need to bake my normal map. Let me make this just bigger so you can see. So what I'm gonna press is Shift A, and I'm gonna add a vector. And where's normal map? I'm gonna connect the normal to the normal part and another texture to the color part. I'm going to create a new texture, which is gonna be our skin normal, and it's gonna be 2048 by 2048 again. I'm gonna create a texture, and while having it selected and in an image, I'm gonna change it into that image. You should save the image. Now I'm gonna unhide my high poly. I'm gonna select first my high poly and then my low poly. I press Ctrl S just in case the file crashes, but I have everything saved. I'm gonna go to the render settings and you have to change it from Eevee to cycle if it's still on Eevee. So change to cycles. Go into the output properties. Okay, I mixed it up. It's in the same where you change it. You go down, and at the bake section we're gonna choose a normal map. Select it to active. Add extrusion. Can add a bit more than that. The thing is, the bigger it is, it's gonna be harder for fingers to get right. You have clear image just in case we have to re-render it again, and I press Ctrl S because I have everything set up. And the baking usually are going on for a while, so I'm probably gonna speed it up this part. So I press the bake and wait, and press Alt and S to save the map. I'm gonna deselect everything, hide my high poly, and don't forget to change skin normal to the non-color. And now I'm gonna go into preview and maybe play with this normal map value and see how my map looks. I'm definitely not gonna have it that roughly on. Usually 1 is enough. I have some problem in the lips. I can show you quickly how to fix them. So I select my normal map, have my normal map again in the image editor. Go preview, go simple solid view, texture paint, and just I can use few ways: smear or clone. I can just pick smear and smear them out. Maybe this is a problem as well. I can smear this out too. And I think there's no more problem. Maybe in this place I'm gonna smear a bit to make it a bit smoother. But I don't make the normal map disappear completely. I'm gonna Alt S again. Maybe the view is a bit too bright, so I'm gonna drop. I can drop the view or change the color and just see how my skin looks like in different backgrounds. You can turn off scene lights if you have any by any chance. Okay. What I'm gonna do is change at the top this one from Chris Decemberly to random walk. I'm gonna add a bit of subsurface. I'm gonna add 0.15. Add a. I can do a subsurface color quickly by adding color and hue saturation. I'm gonna drag from color to this one by holding Ctrl and Shift. I click on this one and get the preview only of this material. I'm gonna add saturation and change the hue by just a little bit to get a nice reddish color. And I'm gonna add this into subsurface color. Press Ctrl Shift on this part now. Preview how it looks like. I'm gonna just drag the roughness 777 in my case, but it can be close to that. I see some problems when I painted the color with the big brush, so I'm gonna select it, go back to skin color, save the file just in case, texture paint. What I'm gonna do, I can use a smear again. Smear it a bit around, maybe soften. We can completely work around this by using smear and smooth, but I'm just not gonna use too much time. I'm gonna save my image. Now we can make another map for making our color a bit more interesting. I'm gonna create a new one, and this one's gonna be ambient. I'm gonna press enter and save it. Now I don't really need to select it anywhere at the moment. Just have it, put it in anywhere, just have it selected. As well as have it's on the image view, change to the solid. Open up my high poly again, select the high poly, low poly, save the file, change the normal bake to the ambient occlusion. And ambient occlusion technically usually takes a long time. So when you're gonna be baking, just have a 5-minute break. Maybe it's gonna take 10 minutes. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna cut the video when it finishes rendering. The baking is finally done. Actually, I had a best results with the different settings. So I had 0.07 or even 0.08 was the best settings for me, and I got a map looking like this. It has some of the problems which I can definitely fix it. So what I'm going to do is hide my high poly and have this map selected in both of the image and in my shader. Go into texture paint. It's not showing off, maybe because I'm using Madcap. Let's go back to studio. And it's not working. Okay, let me try again. I have to select it in here, ambient and texture paint. Okay, so I don't really see too much problems. Maybe a bit here. I can use smear, or even a smooth is fine, because the ambient is a bit grimy. Smoothing things would be quite good. But just fixing the main problems is enough. Okay, let's go back to object mode, saving my map with Alt S, and okay, so we have to do a bit of work in the shader. I'm gonna leave this close to subsurface. Now we have a color and the ambient occlusion. So what we gonna do is mix RGB and I'm gonna use a converter and color ramp as well. I'm gonna connect the color to the first one and the ambient to the second one. Can use multiply for a bit easier. And this line which goes from your ambient to the multiply, I'm gonna turn on the color ramp. Now I'll press Ctrl Shift to see how it looks like. And it looks something like this. The ambient parts looks dark. So what I do is make them just a darker skin tone and not totally black color. I'm gonna Control Shift on this one and turn on my mix to the main one just to see how it is. I can increase the ambient by dragging this, but as you can see, it will have a very weird look if I have too much of it. So some of it is enough. All right. Now we have to work a bit more on the color, but maybe let's firstly do the roughness map. So we can make a roughness a bit complicated while still keeping it pretty simple. What I'm gonna do is Shift A, add a texture, and I'm gonna add a noise texture. Then I'm gonna mix RGB, but don't mind these ones for now. I'm just gonna get straight to the roughness. And I'm saving the file and just call this a roughness. And while having it open in here, you have to save it. Save it on your computer, on color, and selecting it that, having it open in here. I'm gonna go into texture paint and go back to solid mode. I'm gonna open my tools again with N shortcut and fill. So having totally black color will make it completely roughless, and having totally white, it's gonna be not rough at all. So what I do is go somewhere at the 20%. So you can see when it drops to, let's say 0.7, 0.76, 0.75, it's fine. So I'm clicking on it. Now for the lips, I would go 0.3, 0.25, something like that. But use that color on the brush, because now I will have to do it again. 0.227. It's gonna be good for me. I'm gonna make the brush size smaller. Draw on the lips. Now I'm gonna hide the eye and draw inside. You may think it's not visible, but the corner of the eye is. If I unhide the sphere, you can still see some parts of flicking out. That's why it's important. Now I'm just gonna have some of this side going from the eye to the cheek. And I'm gonna Alt S to save the map, go back into object mode and render. So you can see our lips and side is a bit shinier. And that's what we were going for. Now for the roughness, I said you can add a bit interesting pattern going, but it's not gonna change a lot, so you don't even have to do it. But if you just want to know, you go to get another color ramp select it and see how it is. So first check how your simple looks, then how connected. You see that it's way less bright. So what I do, I'm gonna change the scale. As well, I'm gonna have this color and press Ctrl T and have it as generated. Or go through and check which one I like the most, and generated seems to be working the best. I'm gonna just increase the scale. And I have this going. By the way, have this one not set so high. Both of them gonna be close to the neutral, which is one can be 0.7 and another one can be somewhere in the middle. So we won't have that. It's probably gonna be like almost not visible at all, but it is the difference. As well as your ellipse becomes less visible, so you can play with the maps and see which works the best. I see multiple is probably what I'm gonna go for. Multiply. Okay, so maybe you think it looks ugly, but I think it's just the studio setting we have. And the lighting looks not too great on it. Let's add back the subsurface. Okay, and let's work a bit more on the skin color. Don't forget to save your maps, save the projects, skin color. By the way, like if you don't like the tone itself, let's say I have it a bit too yellowish, greenish looking, you can always use curves or something similar, but it can be a bit hard to use. On the red channel, you can add a bit more redness to the skin. Makes the red only visible. I guess it's looking green, so I make the green channel a bit less. Play with the values. Make the skin a bit darker tone. Now I'm gonna save the file and texture paint again. And now I'm gonna go a bit slower on the things that I want to achieve. So this lip color, you can try having the same as you painted the cheeks, but usually I like using a bit different color. Now sometimes it's not visible in the shading mode, or again using the wireframe to help you see where you have to input the color. Now to make a look, make lips look a bit more interesting, what you can do is have a highlights and darker places. So I'm gonna add this color and I'm gonna make it a bit darker and even saturated. and I'm gonna just brush a bit inside the mouth. I'm gonna save this, have a light color, and a bit closer to the side I'm gonna brush at the tips of the lip. And if it's too visible, you can take the smooth brush and just smooth this, and that will add a bit more to the lips. If they look too potent and you want to have a bit more natural look, what you can do is go back to the brush tool, take your simple skin color and just drag over with the soft brush, and it have a lighter effect. Another thing, I need a bit lighter red in the corner of the eyes. If it's again too strong, you can smooth or glaze over with the base color. I think I still added blue to the side, so I'm gonna take the red, add them, and then clear them a bit cleaner. I think I added way too much blush for her, so I'm gonna clean it as well as for the belly, just by using the base color. Now you can add some tones, but very soft at the eyes sides. Some bluish, purplish. Have them smooth, soften, and then blade in with the simple color. As well as you can do the makeup. But usually if you have like going a surface scattering on the makeup, it's not gonna look fine. So what you will have to do is create another map, and where you're putting the makeup, you will have to turn off the subsurface scattering. We just paint it in white color. Right, I'm gonna Alt S, click on the hairs. I wanna add some sort of color to them. Add the most basic ones. And yeah, can't really do too much in a blender with texturing, but it's something that is gonna be looking like this. We can do a quick setup. Set up a plane. I'm gonna show you how to set up everything. Okay. So I'm gonna delete my old plane. How I set up the look is add a simple plane, go into edit mode, scale it a few times so it's bigger than a model. Select the back, extrude it along the top. Select this one, corner, press Ctrl B. And while using the mouse wheel up, I add more loops and make this smooth transition. The background as well has to have a material. You can make as you want, maybe you will want it not be reflective. I usually like a bit darker colored backgrounds. Let me turn up the wireframe. Don't forget to shade smoothly. Sometimes no roughness looks nice. Sometimes you have to add it. And yeah, we can set up a few lights. I'm gonna just quickly show it. I'm probably gonna explain in the next video. I have extras off. I already have the lights on, but I'm gonna delete them. So why do I have a light? I'm gonna use the area light. You can go to the 100 watts. I usually increase the size for the front to the 7 and use like a disc. Rotate it to the model. Don't forget to have scene lights. I see that my model is pretty big, so I'm gonna increase the size to 14. I'd like to 300. Have one in the background, in the back I mean. Shining on her side. The side is usually very small, 1 meter gonna be fine in this case. And I'm gonna add a 0. So one of the things is that subsurface doesn't never look too great in the EV. So rendering in cycles will make it look a bit better. If you're rendering, always use a high contrast at the color management on the render. So yeah, thank you everyone for watching this tutorial and see you next time.